Joining us right now with the latest and to share his thoughts on the possibility of the conflict escalating is Michael O'Hanlon. He is a Brookings Institution Senior Fellow in Foreign Policy. And Michael, you've been watching this very closely, listening to any kind of clues that the generals are getting along the lines here. The White House and the Pentagon certainly making it seem like they think action could be taking place imminently. What's your best guess as to what happens? Will we see action this week?
Hi, Becky. Well, certainly the way you just put it is, I think, very fair and the right basis for policy to recognize there is a distinct possibility of action anytime. I still don't think it's a probability because the cost would be so high for Putin. And now he could miscalculate, and none of us know exactly what's in his mind. He may decide that regaining Ukraine and some broader confederation is his life's work, and it's worth the pain. But this could be a very difficult military operation. There's a little bit too much loose talk in the overall conversation here about Russia's formidable military and its buildup, somehow enabling a relatively rapid win. But Ukraine is an enormous country with a much larger, better military than it used to have. It would still, I think, lose any war, but it could make it pretty ugly. And that's just the military side of the pain. Leave aside what Putin's going to face economically, with all the talk of bans on high-tech exports, access to the financial system. And I think we should be adding one more threat, which is that we would develop a plan to get off Russian oil and gas. It might take 5 years, but you're not going to trade normally with a guy who's just sliced up half of a sovereign country or taken the whole thing. I think Putin, his history is not one of launching large-scale war. He's spent a lot of time mocking and belittling us for getting into wars in the Middle East that he thinks we were foolish to embark upon. And his operations have typically been much more limited and also much more stealthy. They've happened out of the blue, not after a 3-month warning. So I'm still skeptical. But of course, we can't be sure. And I think we should be trying harder at a diplomatic solution than we appear to be. Just all this movement in Europe from capital to capital doesn't really count if you don't have a serious proposal for what you would do to avert war.
Mike, we've seen kind of the buildup, the additional threat coming from President Biden yesterday that if Russia does invade, Nord Stream 2 is off. Is that a significant threat? Is that something that could resonate with Putin?
I don't think it's nearly enough, Becky, because it's about the future. It's about future possible earnings. And of course, Putin wouldn't like that, but he probably figures we're just going to suspend it for a while. And then once we get used to a new aggression, perhaps reopen or, initiate the progress towards really opening Nord Stream 2. I think we have to, if we want to have potent threats, we have to go after his current earnings and have a plausible path to dial back the current source of revenue. Now, Europe can't do that in the middle of the winter, given its dependence on Russian gas, can't do that right away. But we can certainly develop a plan to build more LNG terminals, to expand production of gas and oil in other parts of the country or world, including this country. We can certainly encourage the Europeans to develop some kind of a overall purchasing capability where they could subsidize purchase of more expensive gas from abroad as an alternative to Russia and Russian gas. None of these things are pleasant to contemplate, but if Russia seizes Ukraine, we're going to have to do some pretty big things in response. And it's better to announce that now to improve our deterrent.